Okay. Let's see here. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, cool. This is awesome. I don't know. Let's get started.
Yeah.
All right. So this is UX and engineering at Best Buy. I'm Joe Karlsson. I should always think of this. I never know what to say with this. What am I? I'm technical lead at Best Buy, so I'm like a software engineer. I'm in charge of, I do a lot of the front end, Best Buy. So full stack, we do Node microservices, React, Redux, that sort of thing, kind of in charge of that at Best Buy. My background, I was the lead technical instructor at a dev boot camp in Honolulu, Hawaii. Did that for 3 years, so boot camp similar to Prime. Now I do Tech Talk, so I travel around the world, I talk about technology, and mostly talk about JavaScript and Node. I also talk about like soft stuff too, more mathy stuff and programming, and that's my stuff. Also put a plug in too, I've been Twitch streaming every Wednesday and Sunday. I do live coding, so just kind of walk through my process. Twitch streaming, so on twitch.tv, Twitch. It's like for video games, but like I do live coding on it. So you can like come on and like I do like interview questions and I show projects I work on, so you can just kind of pop in, kind of see what I'm working on. I do that at like about 6:30 on Wednesdays and about 2 p.m. on Sundays, and sometimes I just kind of pop in. If you follow me on Twitter, I just post when I'm streaming on there too. Yep, that's me. Okay. To Eddie.
I'm Eddie. I'm a UX designer at Best Buy. So currently I'm working on the product list page, which is basically when you're searching for a product. That's owned by me, and also the product detail page. So right before you're about to hit add to cart, I designed that as well. I'm also on the pattern library governance team. So any pattern that we like to think about adding to our UI kit has to go through our team to get approval, and then it's shared out with the rest of the shop team.
He basically makes like the Twitter bootstrap components for Best Buy, and he's in charge.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah, I like that. Let's stick with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see here. So how's this going to work? A couple things I want to say before we get into this. This is our first joint talk ever. I've never done one before. So if it's like kind of messy, like just please excuse our mess. We don't know what we're doing. We have practiced this, I promise, but you never know what happens when you do it live, so it's fine. It's fine. This is a pretty small group too, and I want this to be kind of like an informal conversation. So if like something comes up and you like have a question about it, for sure ask. We'll have time at the end for questions, but otherwise just feel free to like just chat with us while we're doing this thing.
We have a few virtual people that joined, just so
great.
you know.
Awesome. Oh, computer. Should I just kind of point towards there?
Yeah, so they're just listening in. So
Cool.
Your screen, unfortunately, is backwards because we can't figure out how to flip the computer. But
Hey, that's fine. No worries. No
it can be
worries.
backwards. Sorry, y'all. Sorry I'm late.
No worries, Emily. Yep. Cool. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is kind of what we're looking at today.
Yeah, so going to go into a little bit about how we work, talk a little bit about kind of our own processes,
Yep.
and then how we work together.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the goal.
Yes, absolutely. I should mention too, so Eddie and I, we both work for Best Buy, but we're not on the same team. So I actually work with another designer more like day to day. Eddie and I are just buds at work, and then Eddie of course works with the team engineers too. So yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I do a lot of hiring at Best Buy, so I'm going to be kind of talking about what I look for when I hire junior devs. And Eddie's going to be talking a little bit about like what life's like as a UX designer at Best Buy. And then we've come up with some tips that we've kind of thought were how we think that designers and engineers can work together better, basically. Cool. How's that sound? Anyone? Cool. Awesome. All right.
So how do we work? So Best Buy, we're in Agile squads. So essentially what that looks like is we have 1 to 2 product owners on each team. So for example, I'm on the Enhanced team, which is the PDP team. We have 2 product owners, 3 to 5 engineers typically. I work in a team of 3 UXers. We share work between the PDP and the list page. And then we have a manager who kind of leads over us. 1 Scrum Master, Scrum Master's just there to kind of make sure everything's running smoothly, make sure there's no blockers. If anything does come up, they typically intervene and will communicate with other teams on our behalf. So that's really super helpful. Typically we have about 1 to 2 quality assurance people. They're going through and making sure everything's looking really good and feeling really good. And then we have a business analyst who's helping product kind of project numbers and kind of forecast, how our features are going to impact overall revenue, and that kind of helps shape like how we pivot on a sprint-to-sprint basis. That's kind of the nice thing about Agile is it's super flexible. So if we need a quick shift and work on something like totally different than the sprint we worked on, last week, it's totally cool. The team is built to handle that kind of transition.
Yep.
Let's see here. Think of it kind of like the Avengers, right? Like everybody's got their own special power. When our powers combine, awesome stuff happens. And then, Agile development. So just kind of a recap. So we got 2-week sprints. UX is baked before the sprint starts, ideally. We like to try to plan like a month ahead of when the developers actually get their hands on our features. It doesn't always happen though. Sometimes a feature will come in like fast and furious, and we have to, really think on our feet, and that's when Agile really comes into play. And we could start working on UX for a feature that's going to be released that sprint, like in the middle of that sprint, and that's always a super fun time. Mm-hmm. Also, sprints are broken down into dev tickets, so the developers, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Agile, but the developers will sit and they'll talk about like how much effort a ticket's going to take, and that will determine like the overall workload of your sprint, like the goal you're trying to hit. So not all the time are you going to be able to complete a full feature in one sprint. We just worked on a feature that took like 4 sprints to complete, but you just kind of chunk out the work that way. Yeah. And then finally, multiple teams can own features on the same page. So on the product detail page, we're calling ourselves stewards now of the page. We're not like owners of the page. Super politically correct way to say it. But there's other teams involved. So like, for instance, we have an attached team that will own like the upsell opportunities for like extra products. Like you're wanting to buy like an Apple Pencil with your iPad. Where does that feature come into play? That's not actually owned by our team. It's owned by a different team. Mm-hmm. So we're having to work together with those teams to often build features on the fly.
What's cool about the UX team at Best Buy though is like, so they're kind of the middleman between the business and the engineering team. In some ways, they're kind of like BAs. So they do a lot of like the selling of the vision of what these new features are going to be, and then they come and work with the engineers to make sure that like we're building it. We do have separate BAs and project owners and whatever that kind of work with them too. But I'd say with our team, we're probably most directly working with designers to kind of figure out like what we need to actually be building, and if we're like displaying that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys wear a ton of hats at Best Buy.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Awesome. So that's like a quick overview of Agile. We're going to go a little bit deeper into like how we work together. Does anyone have any questions so far about Agile? Yeah.
So like this would be for a feature on a website.
Mm-hmm.
This is not for an entire project.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can have multiple teams, as you described, with the devs, the UXers, the BA, that ultimately are working together for. What's the tie that, or what binds all those together? Is it the product owners?
That and engineering managers kind of tied together.
Yeah, it depends on the team, honestly. Yeah. Like certain Scrum Masters feel really comfortable kind of reaching out and like corralling everybody.
Oh, okay.
If a certain initiative is large enough, there'll be a project owner that's really just in charge of seeing that initiative all the way through. It really depends on the project, honestly, and the teams.
Did it take a lot of work to refine the, I'm not even sure the word I should use, to define,
like the process?
Refine and, yes, because I mean I'm not super familiar with Agile, I know a little bit about it.
Yeah,
this seems like it's very specific, and, but you have a lot of people involved too, but everyone has an assignment, a place, you know what they're doing.
Yes, I mean everyone's like an assigned role and we kind of know what we're doing, and we have 2-week sprints, and Agile's all about like, I don't know, it's people over process, right? So we're always like, it's just about communication and like making sure the team's kind of like, we know what we're doing, kind of always checking in with that, and then reflecting on the work we've done.
Okay.
But yeah, it's and then breaking those into small parts that can be done by individual people. It does happen. It's rare that so the front end at Best Buy, I'd say we probably have like 200 people work on just the front end. We have like 1,000 engineers working on the entire tech stack. So we have probably, I don't know, teams about 12 people per, so we probably have like 10-ish, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 teams. I don't know, they're all over the place. I lose track, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's we're kind of bumping each other too, though.
Is this like a static is this a static setup, or is it always being kind of tweaked? And
Always.
Always,
Basically.
and that's Agile, right? Like you should always be readdressing. Is this working? Is it not working? And we try to do that.
Organized chaos.
Yeah.
is how I
Well, at
like
least
to
it's
describe it.
organized. Better than unorganized chaos.
And it is tricky too. I notice a lot of junior engineers kind of can struggle with it sometimes because it's like we're always kind of changing and reevaluating stuff. So it's not like we have a process, and you can't have a firm process like that in software. Like it just, I've never seen that work, at least not for long. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Any other question about Agile? Best Buy? If you don't know much about Agile, that's cool too. This is actually the first job I ever did Agile, like legit on. I don't know. I just asked a bunch of questions. It took like a week to figure out. It's fine.
Yeah.
No one really. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to talk for a little bit about what I look for from junior devs when I hire. I want to get a quick show of hands. Who's still looking around for a gig right now? Cool. That's awesome. That's cool. No worries. No worries. You guys. I hope you guys will find one soon. Hopefully I can give you guys some tips, kind of help you out too. Like I said, I do a lot of hiring at Best Buy. I probably do 5 to 10 interviews a month. And I have one self-taught engineer, and 2 boot camp grads on my team. So I do a lot of hiring of junior devs, and we hire a lot of students like you guys. Yeah, what the hell do I look for, and what do we look for? Oh, dang it. Just ruined my joke. Okay, so let's see here. What's the secret to getting a job? Hey, there's none. There's none. I think a lot of times people ask me what's this thing? Like, oh, Joe, like what video I need to watch? Is there a tutorial I need to learn? What should I be doing? It's like there's none. There's really nothing. You just gotta code a lot. You just gotta program a lot. And this is specific. I'm just talking about like engineers. Yeah, you just gotta work. I don't know. It's hard. I wish there was like a secret. I think it's a lot of luck, and it also include a little bit of networking in there too. So it's awesome you guys are here. I think this is a great opportunity too. I think that's a secret too. With if you suck at technical interviews like I do and whiteboarding interviews, it's like networking is the way to get around that. So the hustle's part of it as well. Okay, cool. So another question I get asked a lot is, hey Joe, what's the best programming language? What should I be learning? What's the next language I should be learning? And anyone have a guess? Who gives a shit?
That was close to what
Close. Yeah. There's a best programming language. I think, yeah, I don't know. Recruiters ask us a lot. Devs ask us a lot too. And you see a lot of like flame wars online of people talking about how, Python's better than JavaScript and TypeScript is better than JavaScript and Angular's better than Vue and whatever. But who gives a shit, right? It's like asking a carpenter, like, what's the best tool, right? Like a screwdriver or a hammer. But like, it's like these things they're tools we use to solve problems, right? And different problems necessitate different tools. And so who gives a shit, right? Like whatever works for you to solve that problem, use that thing. Yeah.
So one thing that's been kind of confounding for me in the job search is
Yep.
it seems like when I'm looking at postings and I hear about jobs, they want a whole laundry list of stuff, and there's maybe half I don't know, but I see Angular,
Yep.
several job postings, then I look at Angular, I start to try to learn that.
Yep.
And then I look again, it's like, oh, everyone wants React now.
Right.
So now I'm learning React.
Yep.
So, like,
I have a name for that.
okay.
I call it Magpie programming. Because
Say that again.
Magpie programming. Because magpies are attracted to the shiny new thing.
Yep.
And they're constantly getting distracted. And that's good. I think it's good. It's a balance. You want to be balancing what the market wants. The market, like React is really hot right now. JavaScript's really hot, and that's a good thing to look into. I mean, for sure, want to keep like a pulse on the market. And actually, that leads me to my next slide here too. But I will recommend a couple languages, and we can talk about frameworks too that I would recommend if you are interested in stuff too. These are just by my pulse in the market today. So Java is always number one. I'm going to say with a couple caveats. Java is the number one most used programming language in the world right now, and it has been for like 20 years, and it probably will be for another decade or whatever. It's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. Every major company uses it, and most of their infrastructure is built on it. So this is good for, so something you want to keep in mind when picking up programming languages is what's the market like, what do I want to learn, and what kind of jobs do I want to take. So Java is really great if you want to go enterprise, big, back-end. This is great technology to use. Cool. So again, it's a tool for solving these types of problems, and if you're interested in those types of problems, this is a great tool to pick up. Python's another great one too. It's been around forever. It was my first programming language I ever learned. It's really easy to pick up, especially if you're a Java person, dynamic typing. And this one's great if you're interested in data sciences, machine learning. There's awesome libraries and tools for that. So if that's like an avenue you're interested in going, for sure take a look at Python. And then, of course, JavaScript. I'm a JavaScript guy. I don't think JavaScript's going away anytime soon. I think JavaScript's going to continue getting bigger. Yeah, it's and I just found out Google just like a year ago they now have more JavaScript code than Java code combined in their code bases. So it's JavaScript is starting to overtake most of the business processes now too, and I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft starts going that direction as well. Yeah, Amazon I don't think anytime soon, but some of the big boys I think are going to start. Yeah, I mean don't get me wrong, they have a ton of jobs. I'm just talking like majority, right? Like a quorum of code being written in these programming languages. Cool. And then maybe should I talk about frameworks too? Yes. JavaScript frameworks. We'll talk about Node. Express is always great. Just stick with Express. Databases, I don't know, I can't really go wrong. Just learn SQL. Who cares what it is? And then front end, I would probably pick up React is really hot in Minneapolis, and of course Angular. I'm seeing old Angular jobs. They're like 1.5. There's not a whole lot. The new ones, a couple. And Vue, I'm not seeing a whole lot of Vue jobs in the Twin Cities yet. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't really seen much, but I don't know. Vue's getting bigger. I don't think it's going to overtake React. I don't know. Safe bet is just learn React.
I'm sorry, you said what is getting bigger?
Vue.
Overtake.
V-U-E. Yeah, overtake in terms of popularity. React.
What are your thoughts on the hooks with React?
Yeah, actually, I just did a demo on this for my team. It's interesting. You guys know about new React hooks? Dan Abramov just had a talk a couple months ago on them. Yeah, so they're looking to get rid of classes and switch to just using functions now, which is kind of cool. So I think one of the hard parts of JavaScript is understanding context. Like, can anyone explain what this is in JavaScript? It's hard, right?
That.
Yeah, this is that, right? This is hard, and this context is like kind of a big barrier to entry for a lot of engineers kind of getting into React. So it gets rid of like binding and class binding, or like function binding, all that stuff too. I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of an interesting, I've been playing around with it in the alpha release in my free time, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. I'd probably just pick it up, just kind of learn it. The other stuff, I mean, like learning the new suspense lazy APIs is really great in React too. I don't know. So at Best Buy, we do, our stack is Node, Express on the back end. So we do node-based microservices that does server rendering isomorphic React. So we server render our React code on an Express server, and then serve up that server rendered React component to the client. So we're full stack. We do a lot with that, but React Redux is a good thing to learn if you want to get a gig at Best Buy. We do not, when we hire, I don't really give a shit about what programming languages or frameworks you know. We do not test on that at all during the interview process. All the engineers in my team do not come from atypical backgrounds or non-JavaScript backgrounds, and they've been amazing. So, yeah.
So what do you look for then if you're not looking for someone who is familiar with what you're using?
We're looking for fundamentals. So, like I said, things are constantly changing. So I don't really care if you know something. I care, can you learn something? So that actually gets my next point. So what I look for is willingness to learn from my engineers. I don't care what you know. I want to see a drive for you to learn stuff, which I think you already have a leg up coming from a boot camp. That gives you a huge, like, a a lot of stories to tell about your willingness to learn. But I have to say, I really, like your bootcamp experience, I think is the minimum. I want to see what you're doing afterwards. It's like right now, I want to see what you guys are doing now. I want to see what you guys, I want to see your GitHub. I want to see those green dots. I want to see the projects you're working on. I want to see your freelance clients. I want to see what conferences you've gone to, what hackathons you've attended in. I want to see, like, are you continuing to learn after you graduate from the boot camp? I want to see that demonstrated. It makes me nervous to see if someone, like, if I look at a GitHub and you have a zillion green dots and then it's just white after that. That makes me nervous, and that doesn't show me a willingness to learn. Yeah, because I want to see that even after you get hired, I want to continue to see that learning continue to happen after you join our team. Cool. And then lastly, I just build stuff and have fun. Yeah, I don't know. So this goes back to like what you should be learning. Like I just want to see that you like programming. So I don't know, like if you're learning like Java and it sucks and it's boring, or like SharePoint or something and it sucks, like that sucks for me too, to like have to hear you talking about this thing you hate that you're learning. That just like drains the life out of everybody involved. I don't know, just work on like cool projects. You want to make like shitty art projects, or like a new website for your band, or like I don't know, like just build stuff you want to build. Try to have fun with it. I didn't like programming until I started like having fun with it, and that's when things really started changing for me. And I want to see that, like, because I think it's not sustainable to be learning stuff that you don't care about. I want to see that you're enjoying what you're learning and you're continuing to do it. Okay. Cool. So let's see here. I'm going to do a quick recap here. So always be learning new stuff. Don't be an asshole, and try to have fun. I forgot to mention that too. Just we're looking for people like we want to work with too. So like
that's key for designers too.
Yeah.
The second one.
Just
really
like,
important.
Be nice. Yeah. Be nice. Yeah. It's I think engineers, we have a stereotype of being what's the word, like just assholes. Yeah, assholes. Asshole's the right word. That's the right word. Yeah, don't do it. I think, and a lot of times I see two people come in for engineering interviews and they forget to be a human being. Don't forget to bring your social skills when you come to a technical interview. Be nice, be friendly, say thanks, pleases, and whatever. You don't have to dress nice, but just be nice.
Stuff you learned in kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Cool. All right, let's see here. That's kind of a high level. I guess anyone have any questions so far before I hand it off to Eddie? The other thing too, I talked about we hire, our technical interviews involve fundamentals. So we don't care about what programming language you use, we don't care about framework you use. You could use C#, Java, Python, we don't care, right? But we do ask, I like to ask one programming problem that has incredible depth and lots of hidden edge cases and requirements that you need to figure out by asking me questions. I'm going to be vague, and I'm going to not tell you the whole thing. I'm going to have you discover it as you solve the problem. These types of questions would be usually a lot of array iteration questions, object-oriented programming questions.
What was the object? OOP.
OOP, yep, exactly. Yeah, so a lot of that kind of stuff. And then I want to see your thought process. Cool. Any other questions about? Yeah.
So you mentioned that some of these things are the things you look for. Would you say other leads on your team, like it's kind of a shared value of the things you look for, or is it a little different depending on the teams?
Yes. Yeah, we all do. So yeah,
Cool.
Yes. Our interview process is pretty standard. None of the hiring managers care about background or language or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. All right. Hand it off to Eddie.
Just out of curiosity, how many of you guys are in UX? 1, 2. Awesome. Well, glad I can be here to share with you. So I'm going to be talking a little bit differently. I'm not a hiring manager at Best Buy, so I can't really share like what the hiring process looks like. But I can share like my perspective on how I got my job. And I also wanted to share with you kind of like how I got started. Because I feel like, we all have stories to tell. And I think there could be a little value in mine. So, here's the question, age-old question: what's the secret to getting a UX job? So let me take you back to 2011, which is when I graduated college from the Art Institute of Portland, Oregon. I went to school actually for video game design. I want to be a concept artist. And in the summer, right before I graduated, that December, I got a job working for Microsoft. It was like the coolest job ever. I was actually a game tester. So I got to test a bunch of Xbox Live Arcade stuff. And my first project ever was this, Halo Waypoint. And I promise it's all downhill from here, guys. This is about as cool as it gets. And it was, I was like totally blown away. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like exactly what I want to do. Even though I was just QA, I was just testing. I was still having so much fun. Just trying to break this thing and make it the best it could be, because I was a super Halo geek growing up. I loved Halo. So it was a super great project to start on. Worked on it for about 6 months, and then the game launched, the app launched, and we were kind of spread among the rest of the teams. And I got to work on Windows Phone, which is super awesome. Not really. Microsoft 8, you guys remember that? Windows 8. And a bunch of other stuff. Tested Minecraft, that was cool. But eventually, about a year in, I got kind of tired of it. The money wasn't great, but I had leveled up in learning more about like the dev process, because we were doing Agile in this environment. So I was kind of hungry to kind of learn more about app development, and I started looking around for jobs, and I eventually found a job for an app company in Vancouver, Washington, and they were hiring someone to design a UI and user experience for a digital turntable app, which I was like, this sounds fun. So I reached out, I applied, and got an interview. They were really stoked about it, but they followed up with this. They said, hey, Eddie, your portfolio doesn't really have any iOS designs in it. Can you, we know you have background with iOS and with app development, but we want to, and we know you have a design background, because I had game design background. I built submenus and stuff. They're like, prove that you can make UI for us, for iOS. And this is something that's pretty standard, I found, throughout my job search history. Companies, even if you do have a strong background, they do want to see you prove it to them, especially in the design world. For whatever reason, and it's just a standard process, and I've learned to embrace this. I feel like this is only going to make you stronger. Even if you fail, you're going to learn a lot from what you're doing. And you're hopefully going to have a portfolio piece when it's all said and done, even if you don't get the job, right? So this is what I did. I built 2 apps, app interfaces. Skeuomorphism was really in. So as you can see, there's these feel like real dials you can turn, and things feel really textured and all that. That was 2012, right? We're away from that now. But this is what actually got me the gig. And eventually we built this thing, which is Easy Pro DJ Mixer. You can still buy this today, I think. So basically, it's this physical hardware. You plug it into your iPad or Android device. Don't get the Android one. It's not good. We really built this for iOS. We had a contract to build an Android app too, and we built the Android app in a sprint. So yeah, unfortunately, because we had bigger and better things, guys, we eventually transitioned out of. So this company I've been working for, they were a toy company for about 5 years, and they eventually decided, we're going to start building our own stuff, and they decided to go this direction. So they built what is it's basically a scale that you can use, and there's an interface to basically digitally bar tech. It's called Perfect Drink. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Perfect Bake is another one. They have Perfect Blend now. They're still cranking these things out. But this is what the company transitioned to, and I was lucky enough to be along for the ride.
From a DJ company to a
I know, right? It's crazy.
Cooking company.
So yeah, I know.
That's a pivot.
But it was really great experience for me, because I got to learn about DJ mixing, and then I got to learn as a UX designer. You kind of embed yourself in what it is you're building. Like right now working at Best Buy, like I'm embedding myself in the customer mindset of a shopper, right? Whereas with the DJ mixer, I was embedding myself as the customer of what is a DJ going to need? Like what are the features they're going to want to have? So I think this is one point I'd like to make is just diversify yourself. Like don't just become the niche guy that's like all about e-commerce. I feel like especially early on in your career, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. You're not really maybe exploring as much as you should be and learning all the different areas of UX that are out there. There's a lot of opportunity out there in a lot of different fields that you probably don't even know exist. So really like search hard, like and expand your search beyond Minneapolis if you can. A lot of people are tied to the area, but I think it's really important, especially fresh out of school. You potentially don't have a lot of ties, maybe not married yet or don't have kids yet. Take advantage of this time you have. Travel, get out there. And then another thing, just participate in hackathons, creative jams. I participated in this one. It's an Adobe Creative Jam for XD, which is a new product they have. This is in Portland, so they came to our town.
What is XD? Is that the name of the product?
Yeah, it's essentially Sketch. I don't know if you guys use Sketch, but it's like Adobe's answer to Sketch.
Gotcha. Yep.
So we were tasked to build an app in like 3 hours, and we did that, and we won the competition. I actually used this as leverage in my interview process for Best Buy. I was talking about like kind of what you're talking about. Like are you engaged with the community? Are you doing extracurriculars to like level up your skills? I agree. I think this is something that's really important. So yeah, just to follow up, pro tips: take full advantage of all your opportunities. You never know, like a good opportunity could land in your lap, and you may feel a little nervous, or you may feel like you're not qualified. That's actually how I felt with the Best Buy job. A recruiter called me. It was actually after I had a job already, a job offer like in my hands. A Best Buy recruiter calls me and says, "Hey, would you ever be interested in interviewing for Best Buy?" And I thought to myself, I was like, big enterprise company, like I don't know, that sounds kind of scary, honestly, especially coming from a smaller shop. I was in a lot of smaller shops as I was leveling up my skills and stuff. And Best Buy I couldn't imagine what it was like to work at Best Buy. And to just clarify, it's not scary at all. It's actually a super awesome place to work. The company culture has changed a lot since I started there back in 2016. It's a lot more casual, more laid back. You come into work in jeans and a t-shirt, people don't care. So I just want to clarify that. Like, don't be afraid of a job that may seem out of reach, because it might not be, What else? Fake it till you make it. So apply for jobs that maybe you don't have all the skills for, but you feel like really passionate about. So like the DJ mixer job, for example, like I had no iOS design background, but I still applied anyway, and I still tried my ass off to get it. I spent a solid weekend locked away in my bedroom, like researching and watching YouTube videos on how to build apps, and that's going to push you in ways like you never thought possible. Get out of your comfort zone. What else here? I already talked about design challenges. Don't settle down. Talked about that. Also, do research on who's hiring. So maybe at this state in the game, when you're looking for jobs, you're really trying to find a job. You'll take any job. I would say you got to work, right? You got to put food on the table if you got family or whatever. But still do your research on that company, and make sure that it's going to be a good fit. I've gotten some jobs that, in hindsight, I wish I would have done a little bit more research. Maybe would have reached out to some people that had worked there in the past, and just gotten a little more insight on the company. If you're not familiar with them, it's really important. Because in my opinion, like less money but great company culture is better than more money and garbage company culture. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So shall we?
Question?
I have a question,
question, yeah.
for both of you, or whoever can answer it. So I found when I'm looking at some job descriptions that it will say that they want, in addition to all of the tech skills, they want a year or two of UX design experience or knowledge. And it's frustrating because I look at the tech part and I have everything they need, but I have no UX experience or education. What do you recommend for someone who trained as a developer? What should we know at a minimum what crosses over to that UX UI that would be helpful to kind of marry the two sets of skills?
Yeah.
Realizing I'm not going to be a fully educated
Yeah,
UXer.
that's a really good question. I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. I think anybody has the skills to design an interface, but if you don't have the user in mind when you're designing it, you're not going to be successful. So, to answer your question, if you have the user first mindset and you can like articulate that in an interview, I think you're gonna do just fine, because as long as your mindset's in the right place, you can learn whatever tool you need to learn. Like if you need to learn Sketch, it's no problem. You can probably pick up Sketch in a week or less.
So would you recommend just going ahead and going for it and sending off
Every
a
time.
resume?
100%.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because a lot of times companies don't know what the hell they're asking. We don't.
It's
true.
We have no idea. We throw a resume out and we have no idea what we're. And that's the requirements when we built it, and then sometimes it changes. And if you pop in our office and you're exactly what we need, we're going to take it, right? Always apply.
Okay.
Always. I've never. It depends. Maybe smaller companies where you're wearing lots of roles, you may have to be designer and a dev. That's okay. Larger companies, you're probably in more strict roles. So startups maybe, but go on an interview and ask. Just say what you got. And I agree. If you can just, the most important thing, even as engineers, it's good to think about your customer and be able to put yourself in their shoes. Because we work with designers and they throw stuff over the designs to us, but there's still some stuff that our engineers need to kind of figure out on their own, right? There's edge cases that haven't been figured out. What does the loading state or error state look for this component or whatever, right? Like, they got to kind of figure it out. So they can always ask, but you can kind of intuit it too, that's always good.
Yeah, we're really pushing, I know in our team, we're pushing to kind of give everyone that user input, and we're trying to also, enhance the pattern library to the point where, to your point, Joe, if someone's confused about like an error state or something, they kind of know what the error state is, that pattern has been established. So, I mean, it still needs to get UX approval, but, you can get it 90% of the way there before you share it with them.
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
So let's see here. We have till 10, is that right, Emily?
You have till 10:30, but if you
Oh,
have
perfect.
only prepared till 10.
Oh no, we have we have 20 slides left. So
I have a question, which maybe it's better for the end, but so often there's people that get stuck in certain parts of the job seeking process, whether I'm getting interviews but I'm not getting a job, or I'm not even getting interviews. Do you have specific advice for each kind of clump of the process where you're just applying and you're not gaining traction? What would be your best advice there? What would be your best advice when you're interviewing and then even negotiating? Those three buckets.
Oh, that's good.
What do
Yeah.
Because we have people in multiple stages and they get, I think people start feeling stuck or they're not getting traction. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
What would be your best advice as we look to navigate that together?
I think for all mine is blanket advice is just dig in your community more. With Prime, you have an awesome community of people who've gone through this stuff, and people are trying to do this. But especially when you're first starting, I would recommend make sure you're networking a lot or more. Go on a hack. There's a ton of hackathons coming up. Hack the Gap's coming up, and a bunch of cool events. I don't know. Networking is probably my biggest thing. But what are you gonna add about that?
I think the networking thing's huge. I've had a couple different instances where I've known someone at a company, and that's helped me get the job. It's really all about who you know. But I've also had instances where I've kind of done it all on my own. I think it really depends. If you're getting stuck on the interview or not even getting an interview, you kind of have to look at what you've already given them and kind of what sticking point could be in your website, or maybe there's a sticking point in your resume. I'd focus on that stuff. And not so much just you personally. But maybe also look at your social media posting, look at what they could see. If they look at your Twitter, you just constantly bashing people. What does that say about your character? Maybe follow up too, and just ask and say, hey, I just wanted to follow up. I know I didn't get the gig, but could you maybe enlighten me on what you were looking for in a candidate? That sort of thing.
The number one I think I see with engineers who I see that are stuck are they get paralyzed with learning, honestly. So I recently interviewed someone who they had just they learned this thing and then they just kept iterating on it and kept digging into this thing that no one even really wants anymore. Their pulse was totally off of what was going on. So they were digging deep into Angular 1.5, watching videos on it, and kept doing this, and they didn't really have a firm grasp of it, and that's because they were just watching videos and not doing anything about it. You know what I mean? Like they just like I don't know. For me, just code every day. Just go home today and go fire pack rank and just do one question. All right, just keep coding. Just keep coding. So I can tell a quick story about when I was in Hawaii, and I have a lot of sympathy too. Like I've had some of the darkest moments of my life when I'm in like the I'm stuck phase looking for a job. But when I moved to Hawaii, I came from Minneapolis and I was a SharePoint Microsoft consultant. I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. I'm gonna get a job, no problem, in Hawaii. And I went there and no one wanted to hire me. I was too junior and they were only hiring seniors, and that market's like a little smaller and slower, and it's about 10 years back. Like it's not a great market, and they're not looking for juniors to train up. And it took me 9 months to get a job when I moved to Hawaii. And I was after working as a Microsoft consultant for 3 years, all right, in the US. I was like, oh. Yeah, so I had some tricky moments. That was some dark days. And that's when I started freelancing just to survive. Out of necessity, so I started just picking up authors and public speakers, and then I started doing hackathons, and I met startups, and then the startups got bigger and bigger funding, bigger and bigger and bigger. And then through the startups and hackathon scene, I met this boot camp where I became the lead technical instructor after that. But it was just by there's a lot of hustling and necessity, and me just kind of cranking out shitty projects for people for a couple bucks to try to make it by. And eventually that just kind of built up and got bigger and bigger from there. So, yeah.
I have a question about skills.
Yeah.
I think I've probably been reading too many Medium articles, but one thing I keep seeing is that companies want developers to have knowledge of algorithms and data structures.
Mm-hmm.
I know what an algorithm is, and I understand on the surface how they're involved in coding,
right.
But I don't know a ton about algorithms.
Yeah. You see that in the Twin Cities, or where you seen that?
I think they're,
I've never been asked a big O or algorithms question in the Twin Cities, ever.
Really? Okay,
Ever,
that's
yeah.
good to know.
I
actually know what a big O question is.
Perfect, yep. You should know that stuff if you're applying for a FANG company, Facebook,
I'm
Amazon.
sorry, a what
FANG, so that's Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google.
Oh, okay.
That's the FANG algorithm, top big five, right? Yeah, you need to know that stuff for those interviews. Twin Cities, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just know how to program, and maybe know one programming language well, and maybe one framework. Just know one thing well. Know
Okay.
one thing well enough to get through an interview.
Okay.
That's all you need. For you guys, I just recommend sticking with JavaScript until you get a job, or if you know you want to switch to a different type of programming, do that. Just stick with JavaScript. Don't get fancy. Be my recommendation. Know one thing well. Cool. Any other questions before we jump into our phase 2 here? You guys cool if we go till 10:30?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
What was the name of that website you meant? Was it HackRank?
Oh, HackerRank.
HackerRank.
There's a ton of them. There's Coder Dojo, HackerRank, Project Euler. How many? There's like a zillion of these. What's that?
Edabit is one. It's
Edabit.
kind of like function questions.
Yeah. There's 6 billion code kata question websites out there. Just start doing them. I'll tell you about the worst technical interview of my life. I had in Hawaii. It was one of my first ones, and I went in and they started asking me technical interview questions, and I bombed, and I started sweating. There was a room full of people just staring at me in silence. I started just sweating and freaking out, and I went home and I said I had never wanted to go through that experience ever again, and I've been doing code katas every day since. I still do it today. I've been hired at Best Buy for years. I still do them every single day. I'm still training.
Just before you go into this, both of you kind of mentioned like this new feature or like that as a part of your process. Can you give an example of like what that would be?
Like what a feature is?
Sprint? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like at Best Buy or like what types of?
Should we post
Yeah.
the website?
Sure. Let's see here.
Yeah, I guess you want to talk about a web or a project that maybe it was released recently or something?
Yeah. Let's go to.
Let's see,
Let's go to the appliances. Let's go to a big refrigerator.
BestBuy.com. Let's see here. What's that? I'll just go to.
Like a Samsung refrigerator.
They spell. I can't see what I'm. Fridge. I can't spell and I also can't see. Let's see here. Should I just go to refrigerator?
Just click on one of these guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so a feature. So on our page, this page is massive, right? Like we don't
we don't just design the page and then we're done. Each one of these things is a feature. So like this is
Yeah, we call them like components.
component.
Yeah.
That's the new
The new Best Buy slang. Yeah.
So yeah, the media gallery is a feature, a component, and this is what we're talking about. So we were tasked 2 years ago to redesign the media gallery, for example, and we went through a laborious process of doing a lot of user testing. We did a lot of upfront user testing, just to get a feel for what users were expecting. We found out that people wanted to see more videos on the page, so now every time you go to an appliance, you'll see at least one video. We're trying to get more video content in these pages, so you're going to start seeing more videos as time
Like how to set it up once you buy it.
So this, just getting videos on the PDP, just this one piece right here, could be a whole script. Yeah, totally. Well, because you got to think about the data. Think about how many videos we're talking about. Think about how many products Best Buy represents, right?
And it has to work on every single page.
It has to work on every single product page. And it's not just refrigerators. You got to make sure it's going to work for TVs. You got to make sure it's going to work for computing, cell phones.
Something else we think as engineers we think about is this going to work on Black Friday when we get crazy amounts of traffic?
That's the big question. That's the big question.
So we have to think about, can this scale up massively quickly too?
The really fun thing about this page too is that there's all sorts of different business stakeholders involved. Like so the way Best Buy is structured is like every category has a representative, and that those people have a say in what we do here. So what works for the appliances category might not work for the computing category, and then we have to come together. There's lots of communication. There's lots of meetings about meeting in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. So that's another thing, is being able to articulate the why behind your designs, and use your data and your research to back up why you're doing certain things, because you're going to need to share that with everybody. Everybody's going to want to know, well, why are we doing this? And some people might disagree, but if you have the user research to back it up and the analytics to back it up, and you've A/B tested it and you've proven that this is going to increase revenue, then we're good.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot more than just the actual technical code and design to think about. Besides, you just touched on topics I hadn't even thought of.
Yep.
I code or create a website or a page or anything.
Oh yeah, it gets political. It really does.
I can see
in
that.
the best way. People, everybody we work with, like, they're super cool. Everybody understands the situation we're in, understands the needs of other teams, and certain features might be built initially with one category involved or one team involved, and then other teams want to get in on it and start using it for what they need. So yeah, it's this constant back and forth, and what's the best way to say this? It really all boils down to communication.
We'll talk about that too, actually, in this next part here too, probably.
Yeah.
You guys have specific questions about stuff too? We could after this talk we can kind of go into that stuff too, like how we build stuff or how we break it up, or how to whatever. We can talk about whatever. Yeah.
So does this site right here, this page, is this written? What is it written with?
So this one is, we're currently refactoring this to be a React, using React components. Right now, we had legacy monoliths written in Ember and Backbone, and a little bit of React in there. We're hoping, I don't know, you probably know better about when that's going to happen. The new
GBP?
Yeah, the GBP PDP.
Yeah, so we're actually blowing this page up right now. It's
been a long project.
Yeah. Let's say that.
This is one of our, so this is the home page, the list page, and this detail page are the 3 most visited pages on the website. Yeah, it's a big, Eddie's on this big project now to redo this project.
Yeah.
Rebuild it from scratch.
Yes. So a lot of conversations of all of that, you can imagine. We're getting there though.
Yep. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see here. So this is kind of going, we were kind of talking about here, like how we kind of build that stuff out, these features. Eddie and I kind of want to talk about our tips for how engineering and design can get together better. So I think traditionally, you see the stereotype is designers are sensitive and empathetic and caring, and engineers are cold, hard, logistical assholes who say no a lot. And I've been part of organizations where design and engineering don't get together. I think that there is some natural friction in the two positions, because UX and the business want to get things done, and engineering has their own needs and requirements that they're trying to get, and we're trying to negotiate how to build this thing, right? And I think this has been one of the healthiest engineering and UX relationships I've seen. I've seen it go off the rails, and we want to talk about our tips for help you guys keep healthy relationships with your teams, right? Because you can build better products, you can iterate faster, you have better working relationships, it's less stressful, right? There's lots of great reasons why you want to get together with your person. So, cool. Let's just get started. So, first thing I'd recommend is establishing clear vision. The earlier you can do that, the better. This is Spy Kids goggles are for, hoping to get that, narrow it in. I think our design process is a little waterfall-y right now. So the UX works with the business to develop a prototype, kind of a mock-up, and then once that gets approved by the business, basically the UX works with the engineers to get that built. And that's really helpful for our engineering teams. We do have some projects where we're more lean, so we get the engineers involved a little earlier. But the key is making sure that everyone understands where we're headed. And I do note with my engineers too, we have a really great relationship with our designer. Again, Eddie's not our designer, we work with another one, but he's awesome for, if an engineer gets in and we say hey, we can't build this, he's great at changing the thing. But we have the goal in mind and everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to this, so again, this is something that we're trying to get better at. It is a little waterfall-y right now. Our product owner came in. We've been trying to rethink our process a little bit, and so we're now trying to have a UX engineering product meeting at least once a week, just to show what we've been working on, to get dev feedback early in the process, to understand maybe the limitations of the stack and what we can and can't do early in the process, because it has happened where we'll have a feature all baked out, we'll have tested it, we've gotten approval from business teams, and we hand over to dev, and dev takes one look at it and says, wait, you want to do this? We can't do this, And it's like, oh my God, really? So then you kind of have to, retrofit your designs. Perfect segue. Yeah, you want to get engineers involved early in the process.
Okay. I'm sorry, did someone else?
I heard a hey.
Just too excited. Yes!
Kind of piggybacks on what you just said. How is it resolved when, say, both teams are humming along, you're getting this we'll just say feature developed, let's say the whole site, and a UXer goes to the engineer and says, this feature is really cumbersome, it's difficult for the user to use, he or she is going to be very frustrated, and I think will just exit the site. I'd like to see this instead, and the engineers say, well, we can do that, but it's going to involve all this rewriting of code, and it's going to be really difficult on our end, it's going to...
Yep.
So how
it does happen a lot.
That?
Usually engineers probably totally agree that the feature sucks. Hey,
okay.
So it's usually not the engineers that need to convince that a feature sucks and we need to rebuild it. It's usually the people who are paying us money, which is the business.
Yep.
So we need to convince the business that they should give us money to solve this problem.
Right.
And they're prioritizing is this shitty feature more important or less important than these other things we want to do?
Right.
Okay.
So it's about prioritizing.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the example you gave, let's say a 20-point ticket for a dev is a ton. That's going to take you maybe the whole sprint to complete. And if that's the level of effort it's going to take, to do the feature that UX wants to do, then the product owner is going to take a long, hard look at this feature paired against, this other feature that this other team wants to incorporate. And we're really just trying to plan ahead, plan the roadmap out, so by the end of the year, we've accomplished as much as we possibly could to generate as much revenue as we possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
So it really falls on them. The product owner has to make the hard decision to say whether or not something's a go or no.
That's a lot of plates in the air.
It is. Yeah, they do a lot. They got to do research and check things out, prioritize, make hard calls. It's not easy. It's not an easy job.
I don't envy them.
And even this is related to, so like those kind of conversations too, I think getting engineers involved early and kind of establishing a vision with them, it's better if it's not formal. We try to do like Eddie sits with his team, our engineer, but our designer kind of comes over when we need him. But like it's just like hey, or like hit him up on HipChat or Slack, be like, hey buddy, like I have a question about this, or what about this, or we consider this, or this isn't going to work, right? It's usually just a very informal conversation we have.
Yeah. Typically, we have our stand-up meetings in the morning. Mm-hmm. So every morning starts out with that meeting where everybody kind of talks through what they're going to be working on that day. And that's a really good time to bring up any issues that you have or that you want to, take care of. Because what we're all about is not interrupting the flow of getting work done. Mm-hmm. Especially devs, engineers, like they need to get in the zone on what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So on our team, we have a rule: if a dev has their headphones on, do not disturb. Hit them up on HipChat, hit them up on Slack. Mm-hmm. Maybe send them an email, schedule a meeting. But yeah, you want to save that time from like 10 o'clock to lunch. Don't mess with them, or like from like 1 to 4. You want to hit them up before or after that. So, yeah,
that's good. Cool. So let's see here. The other one too is making sure that you're accepting feedback, and this is both for UX and for engineering. What I think the worst case scenario is hearing something like this when you're trying to give feedback, right? This is, you want to try to avoid that, right? Like, so for example, like as an engineer, we start working on something that is going to either take a super long time to build or isn't practical or feasible. We give that feedback, and it's really important for designers to not take it personally if we say we can't do something, right? We all have a common goal of trying to help the customer use our site better. And same with us too, like, it's like, hey, what happens a lot with our engineers is a UX person will give us a design, and then our engineers will not do it very well. So they'll like get the margins all wrong, padding's wrong, font size is wrong. Like it just looks like a sloppy hot mess. That's not what they do. And we don't do pixel perfect designs because we do responsive, so we don't do that. But it still needs to feel cohesive and professional. And what we get a lot is feedback from our UXers about our shitty implementation of their designs.
No.
Yeah, on my team for sure. And I'm guilty too. But it's good. I mean, we both have that. We can both accept that feedback without freaking out about it.
Yeah. I think this actually segues into a future slide here. Oh yeah. So basically, you want to remember that your coworker is not the enemy here. Let's take a step back. Like, let's focus on what the real problem is. It's user problems. We're trying to solve these problems. Let's focus on those, and it's when we kind of take a step back that we all realize, like, we're in the same boat here. Mm-hmm. We're all fighting the same fight, and we at the end of the day, we want an awesome website. We don't want something that sucks, mm-hmm. right? And when you kind of rally around that, things tend to work a lot more smoothly. Mm-hmm. I find.
What I think is awesome at our team right now is we see the feedback, and like working with the designers is like a growth opportunity for us. It's like we get this feedback, like, I never realized that, or I didn't know that. Like, everyone on my team is good about using it as a learning opportunity as opposed to being offended and stuck and digging their heels in, which is awesome. I love that mindset. Cool.
Yeah.
And as I think you already pointed out, there's this healthy friction that happens, right? And that's healthy. Like, we want to hear dev feedback on why a certain thing is difficult to mm-hmm. do, and like, what's the reality of the situation.
I think good things get built with friction. Like, think like John Lennon and Paul McCartney, right? Like, these two great minds who have like ideas of it, and they come together and can make something amazing. And it's the same with us. Like, if my engineers didn't have a designer, this website would look like garbage. Like, it'd be a sloppy hot mess. And UX makes it professional. It brings it to the next level, and we need them, and they need us to make the site. And we need that. And the friction's a part of it.
Yeah. So a way to combat this is focus on building relationships. So this could be done in a lot of different ways. You could have arm wrestling tournaments. You could try something like Ludo. Have you guys ever heard of Ludo?
No.
It's awesome. So basically, this company decided that we weren't having fun enough at work, so they were going to create like a work game, essentially, for the duration of a sprint. And it kind of acts as like an icebreaker or a way to like get to know the people on your team. Because a lot of times we do tend to silo off and get work done, and we'll communicate, really focusing on work every now and then. But we don't really get to know one another all that well unless you're like going out for lunch or going out for coffee, which you can totally do. I highly recommend that. But something like this is actually super awesome. Like, essentially what it boils down to is you answer questions about yourself, and then those little fun facts about you become aspects of a game, and that game could be something like this, Office Wolf. It's essentially like, I don't know if you've ever played the game Mafia, but basically...
A werewolf?
Yeah, werewolf. Like, everyone's a townsperson except for two people. Those are the werewolves. And basically, you answer a question about yourself. It's either a truth or a lie. And if you're lying, then you're the werewolf. If you're telling the truth, you're a townsperson. And based on your answers that are shared with everybody, the whole team as a whole determines who's lying and who's telling the truth. And it's just a really fun way to like get to know people. You start asking questions. It's like a nice conversation starter throughout like the day and throughout the week. Especially if you're a newer team, I highly, highly recommend this. It used to be free. I'm not sure if it still is. But if you get a new job and you feel like the culture may be a little abrasive, or you might have some weird personalities, maybe recommend something like this.
I have one thing to add to that too. So something I do, my job, I use my Fridays for building relationships at work. So I don't get a whole lot of like email and paper and coding work done on Fridays, but I'll set up lots of coffee dates, or like just hang out and chat with people, kind of be available to like just be there. Especially when you work at a big company, your technical ability is not as important as your like relationships with your coworkers. And for me, I could program 24/7 and not even think about anybody else, and I have to treat building relationships like a job for me to get it done. This is sad, but I have to do this with my friends too. Like, if I could just sit and program every night after work, and I have to like make a purposeful effort to like go and set up stuff to do with my friends. Yeah, I'll give one story too. There was an engineer at work who I've been having a little bit of friction with, and we just went out to coffee last week just to kind of chat, and like I feel like just having that, I don't know, just like an informal chance to chat he really appreciated it, and it's repaired that relationship a lot. I don't know, just keep in mind too, coworkers in general, but especially your immediate team, you want to make sure you're giving those relationships love.
Super important. Yeah, and especially when you're working on a huge enterprise, those relationships across teams are also super important. So, hopefully once you've built up kind of your internal team and everything's like clicking and working great, start reaching out to folks on the other teams. Like, we have a pricing team we work with, and we rely on them heavily for like a lot of our components. But we definitely don't meet and converse as much as I think we should. So that's another thing. Like, reach out across teams, because you never know when you're going to need to communicate with them, and it makes it that much easier to reach out if you are really comfortable just talking to them in general.
Yep. Yeah.
This is a little off topic, but it's something I think about a lot. So you have because you were just talking about how you're inspired when you get home from work to sit down and code, and like it's really like a passion for you, and that's like awesome. And I can totally see where the value comes in that as an employee. Sure. What about an individual who has learned these skills because they know that they're valuable? It doesn't necessarily drive me and like but
Yeah.
like I totally see the value in it, and that's inspiring.
Yeah.
But I'm much more inspired by the connections
Yeah.
and the consumer interaction with the product. Like,
Yes.
where is the space for that sort of individual?
Yes. So what we're saying is like, yeah, for people who like don't do programming or design after work every day, like, is there space for them there? And I that's an excellent question. And I do want to say I think I'm kind of nuts in that regard, and I don't expect other people to be as nuts as I am about that. I think that would be that's not a good standard to set, and I don't think it's healthy. Even for me, it's probably not too healthy. So it's with my employees, I really like if they have kids or a long commute or hobbies and a life and friends, like that's great. I don't want to push on them to having to work outside the 40 hours a week. Like I would never do that to my team, and I hope they don't feel that pressure. It's something I check in with them a lot on, and I think it's totally acceptable. And there's times in my life too where I'm like last summer I didn't program for like 3 months. I just was enjoying the summer and the sun, right? It's just like now I'm back in it again. Now it's the winter, but it comes and goes. I think I'd get burned out. I've been burned out from doing it too much, and I don't want to. Yeah, that shouldn't be.
One thing I would recommend is maybe you're not in the right position in the sprint team as a whole. Like maybe you have all this developer knowledge and you realize maybe this isn't something I'm super passionate about. Maybe try applying for like a product manager role. These skills are transitionable. Like you actually would probably have a ton of value as someone in the product role with the engineering knowledge that you have, because PMs all the time are asking like, why are we doing this, or why can't we do this? And knowing the rationale and understanding like the infrastructure and how long something's going to take, you can then better articulate all these things to the business team on the other side of the building. So
that's an awesome point. You probably would be a great product person. Oh, that's a great point.
I get a vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a question over here.
Yeah, could you talk maybe a little bit more about how you don't get burnt out? Like, what if you got a new job where you're working with programming language A, but you're really interested in programming language B? Like, how do you have enough energy after a day of like learning something new at a new job or something like that, and being able to go home and work on stuff you like really enjoy as a hobby?
I struggle with it too. I struggle with it. Like sometimes I just don't feel like it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a balance. I've been burned out. So like I should have mentioned too, my last job when I was lead technical instructor in Hawaii, I was working like 80, 90 hours a week, and I was programming outside of work on weekends too, and taking my students up to hackathons. It was just crazy. I got burnt out, and I had to quit for 6 months. I traveled in Asia for 6 months just to kind of de-stress from it, and then I got hired on here. But I've personally experienced it, and it sucks. It's definitely balancing out listening to yourself too. Depends what situation you're in too. I think if you have a job, you're probably a little more comfortable. I think if you're don't have a job yet, I would push you to keep going, even if you don't feel like it. Because there's always a million excuses, but yeah, I don't know. Listening to yourself, balance. I take breaks. I have to stop, like I said, and I treat friends and things I need to do like as a job, so I can get it done too. I should not be the one talking about this. I'm not great at this. This is not my specialty.
I think maybe one thing you could do if like coding isn't feeling like it's what you want to do right now, like he was saying, maybe focus more on your soft skills. Maybe just try getting out, like going out for coffee with somebody. Just try working on those other things that are still valuable. If you're feeling like the thing you really need to be focusing on is just not clicking right now. Yeah. That reset can also help you just come back to your computer feeling like rejuvenated and probably a little bit more inspired.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see here. So we got about 15 minutes left, and I'll probably maybe do 10 minutes. Kind of zip through some of these slides here too, but I'm actually going to go through fast in here. Spec designs. We kind of talked about this early, but like what's been helpful, engineers are going to hear this, or UX hears this feedback from engineers a lot, like, what is this? How does this work? I need more design. I need more, like, it's just never enough. But the more you can do, the better. We've done a good job training our engineers to, like, our designer does a lot, but it's impossible to capture every error state, everything, every width of the page. Like, it's impossible. But we try to give that as much as humanly possible. Yeah. And for the stuff you don't document in a design, make sure you're having those conversations like informally with your engineers about what your expectations are with those. So this would be the kind of conversations you should be having with your teams, giving those spicy deets to your engineers.
Yeah.
That's it. You want to talk about some of the tools?
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, like those details, they can be living in a wiki document somewhere. That's really cool. We're trying to do more documentation, even though like the trend is moving towards like this lean mindset. I think that's because a lot of times, like UX could potentially have a feature baked, ready to get built by development, and it'll sit for like 6 months or a year maybe until it's finally picked up. So if you don't have that documentation, you're totally relying on your memory to remember like why certain things are certain ways. And I mean, you'll probably remember a good chunk of it, but there's certain details I guarantee you're gonna be like, why did I do that? What is this thing? You know. So definitely make sure like when you're done, especially this is for UX, to just holistically go through, make sure all your info and documentation is in the same place, so it's easy to reference down the road, because again, you might not see that feature getting built for like a year.
Yep.
Another thing, so this is how we currently spec our documents. We rely on Envision and spec. This is something we've had to teach our developers. It's not too tricky to use. It just requires like an hour tutorial. But what we found is that sometimes the measurements can be maybe off a little bit here and there. We've moved into a more standardized practice for like margin and padding recently. So that movement and shift in our pattern library should be helping developers when they see a weird number in inspect, like maybe it's like off by a couple decimal points. They'll be able to like reference the pattern library, rules and say, okay, it says like 16.7 here, but the margin class is actually 16, so we'll go with 16. You can make those more educated guesses that way. But yeah, this is new for us too. We've been using this for I'd say about a year and a half. We've been using Envision Inspect. If you have any time, I recommend maybe just diving in. I think Envision is free, so you can play around with it a little bit. This is kind of a standard for UX right now. Inspect's really popular. Also, Zeppelin is pretty popular to spec your designs too.
Yeah.
So just familiarizing yourself with this.
Do you use Sketch and then upload it to Envision, is that right?
Yeah. So you build everything in Sketch, and then you upload it to Envision. Envision is working on their own tool too, but I don't think that's out in a while yet.
So this is related then to, and something we had to do is designers have had to teach us how to use these tools. I've never used Envision before. I've used Sketch for some of my freelance clients I use, but Envision I had no idea. But the awesome thing is having an engineer teach, or having a designer teach your engineers how to use the UX software is like, Envision is like, if I have a question about font weight and space and width and padding, I can just look in the Envision document. It includes like all the CSS for that thing. It's not one-to-one, I can't just copy paste it, but it gives you an idea of what the things are, and then we kind of paste that into our CSS wherever we need it. But yeah, so I don't have to bug our designer every single time I have a CSS question. It's just there. The other thing too is Envision documents include all the assets, so I can just download PNGs, SVGs, whatever, and I just can throw them in there. Just makes working a lot faster.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about engineers and design software?
No, I think it's really great that the software is becoming a lot more easy to access. Like you can get a Sketch license or free trial for like 2 weeks. I might actually recommend, if you're feeling burnt out on code, maybe just try designing something. Like try coming up with like a passion project that maybe would inspire you to code more. You can throw something together relatively quickly. It might not look great, but it might get the point across of what you're trying to build. And then maybe you could have a UXer, help polish it up if it's like a side project. Go to a meetup and just try to, get people to give feedback on certain aspects of kind of your pet projects. That can spark that inspiration and get you rolling again.
Good question?
Is Sketch like Balsamic?
No, it's much more high fidelity. It's a vector-based design tool for the web.
It's like Photoshop, but specifically for web design.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense.
It's pretty easy to
free,
use.
Is it?
It's free for 2 weeks, and then you have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's not that. I think I even bought a license.
I will say Adobe XD is free.
and that is a super cool piece of software.
Can you do design in that, like you can in Sketch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I should say too, like most of my web apps and I take part in, I don't use Sketch for design. I just use pencil and paper.
Oh.
I wish I had my notebook I could show you guys too, but I basically just wireframe it or get a whiteboard, just kind of sketch out Heather what this kind of looks like based on design too. Like you can get fancy if you want to learn that stuff. Cool.
Right.
You don't have to get fancy though. You know?
Right. Yeah. You can just wireframe it out. It's
Yeah.
all you need.
A lot of times I have access to designers now, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll sketch something out, kind of what my idea is for a side project, and I'll just like kind of ask someone in passing, kind of a designer, to give feedback on my shitty designs. I need a lot of help, so cool. Let's see here.
So yeah, wrapping your head around code. I was fortunate enough to have my first job be building a website. So I was forced to understand why certain things weren't working, really digging into like the Chrome dev tools or like Mozilla's dev tools. That's going to help you because part of our sprint actually, even though UX might be done up ahead of time, we're actually asked to give final sign-off and approval on a feature before it goes to production. Mm-hmm. So if something gets sent to us and it doesn't look good, we can either say, this doesn't look right, I don't know why it doesn't look right, or you can learn the code, dig in and say, hey, this doesn't look right because the class on X label is using this margin, it should actually be using this margin. It's like there's that level of depth that's only going to make the handoff back to the dev that much easier because they're going to be like, oh, this is the class I got to change? Cool. They can just go in, change the class. They don't have to like get together and have this like side conversation, which it's fine if you need to do that, but the more you understand about the code and the environment that you're building for, the better.
Mm-hmm. I'd say the most important skill a designer could have for us is understanding Chrome dev tools. So something our designer does a lot is when he's auditing and doing design reviews for us for release, he'll actually look in the CSS in the DOM and tell like, hey, this font weight's not Best Buy standards, or this is missing this, or this padding like looks weird, and he'll look in and actually tell us like, hey, this doesn't match our specs or whatever. But he's able to actually audit and do design reviews quickly with us, which is great. So just get comfortable. That's probably, if I was going to recommend one thing to make sure you're comfortable with Chrome devs, make sure you can understand how to navigate the DOM with Chrome dev tools.
How to not navigate?
How to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's the most important. Yeah. Cool. Otherwise, and then coding too. If you want to learn how to code, that's great. I don't think it's necessary though to be a good designer. I think CSS though, probably, and basic HTML structure is probably pretty good to know though. Cool. Any questions about things designers or engineers should learn? Huh? All right, you guys ready for the most important slide?
Yeah. Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So the most important thing you can do is just communicate, and that's like the overarching theme of all these. It's just like being a fucking human and like just have conversation with each other. That's really what this is about. If you had that's the one slide you really need, right? We have like specific tips for how to do that, but just like talk to the person, right? It's a person trying to solve problems. Sometimes being frank about it, being honest, it's just like, hey, this is weird, or like we want to do this thing, or I'm uncomfortable with this, or I don't like this, right? Like, just make sure you're saying that stuff. I'm not saying it's easy, but just try to do it.
To piggyback on this, like, especially when you're new, you can have this like imposter syndrome, like, I don't really know, and I feel weird if I ask questions because then it's gonna like show that I don't really know what I'm doing. That's totally okay to be confused, especially like for anybody. Like if I was, me being like a 8-year UXer coming into Best Buy, a whole new environment, a whole new way that the teams work and teams are structured. Like I have a lot of questions, and I've just gotten to the point where I just accept that I don't know something, and I figure out who to communicate with. Because there's nothing worse than not knowing something and just pretending like you understand what's going on, right? It's easy to do, and it's really hard to then go back and say, actually, I don't really know what I'm doing. It's been like a week. You gave me this task. I'm sorry. Like that's not good. Don't do that.
I should mention too, so for junior devs, like I don't expect any of them to come in and start challenging design questions or even to know how to articulate these questions. But I expect them to ask questions. That's the one thing I really expect a junior to do. So they don't understand it. I don't want them sitting for 2 weeks trying to solve this problem when they could have just asked somebody to solve it, especially a designer, right? It's like just you think you have a question, just ask it.
Right.
You're gonna look dumb a lot. That's okay. I still ask dumb questions. I was in a meeting 2 days ago, and I asked 3 times what acronyms were. I've been there for almost 2 years now, and I'm still.
That's a big one
at
Best Buy. There's so many different acronyms. You're like, what?
Classic corporate. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. We all have questions, right? Oh yeah, that's fun.
So you've never fired anyone for asking a question?
Never. I love it. I have had difficult conversations about people who are not asking questions, though. Yeah, if I know someone's struggling and they didn't ask a question, I'm gonna ask, what the hell, right? Like, in a nicer way, but hey, why didn't we just talk about this? And if they're feeling uncomfortable, maybe we try to figure out how to make that environment more comfortable for them to ask questions or safer. That's something we're really trying to work on.
Yeah.
But,
Agile kind of facilitates this too, I guess. Like in the morning when you're talking through, like how the sprint's going, you're talking about like what you're working on. It's pretty clear. Like if you're working on a ticket and it's like in progress, and it's been in progress for like 3 days, and people are like, "What's going on with the ticket?" Maybe that's a good time to be like, "Okay, all right, I got a thing I got to talk about."
Yeah.
So just take advantage of that time you have with everybody present and listening.
Yeah. It takes a lot of vulnerability to ask questions. You're admitting you're wrong, and it's hard. I struggle with it. I'm not great at it. But especially the junior, and if you're new at a company, even as a senior coming in a new company, I still need to be vulnerable and ask those questions if I don't understand something.
Yep.
Cool. So any other questions about communicating? It's pretty straightforward. Cool. So let's do a little recap. It's 10:30. So let's see here. Yeah, I guess we can kind of take teams together. But yeah, getting your engineers early and often. So the earlier you can get an engineer involved, the sooner we can start creating a design that's going to work for everybody.
Yep, and from that you establish a clear vision, you get everybody on the same page, product on the same page, engineering, design, we're all moving towards the same goal, and that's going to really help facilitate good communication.
Yep, and then make sure that everyone needs to make sure that if they get feedback, they don't get defensive, and keeping in mind your end goal too. A lot of people will approach giving feedback really aggressively. I've been in situations like that too, mostly by engineers. Not saying design doesn't happen in design though, but yeah, making sure that you may need a conversation, but try to make sure you're accepting that gracefully. Cool.
Yeah, build relationships, super important. Take the time, get to know people on your team, go out for lunch. Propose new ideas if you feel like your team isn't really there. Be that champion of the thing that's going to get you guys coming together. People will really appreciate that if you're the guy that's like the glue.
Yeah, no, totally makes you valuable to a team.
Yeah.
Make sure you're specing your designs. The more detailed, the better. It's impossible to get everything as a UXer, but try your best to make sure you're communicating your gaps too. Yeah.
And the more detail. You skipped my last.
Oh, did I? Oh, kind of. It's like
it's a sub-bullet.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Might be.
Teach your engineer the basics of how to use design software. Take the time, especially when you're transitioning. So we transitioned to a new tool fairly recently, and that's kind of on us to share that with everybody else. So make sure everybody's on the same page, and you'll know when people aren't on the same page, and try to fix that sooner rather than later.
Yep. And then to UXers too, it always helps to understand how to work with your engineers too, and we recommend Chrome Dev Tools too for doing that. And lastly,
last but not least, most important one, communicate.
Yep. Yeah, just make sure you're doing that.
I will say.
Cool. Let's see here. It's 10:30. Yeah, that was perfect. So maybe we'll be here for maybe we'll just kind of be here for a little bit and we'll answer questions or whatever. And then otherwise, let's see here, I'll put a little thing. Thank you so much for having us, everybody. This is so great. You guys have been really great. And you guys have been a great crowd asking awesome questions. Eddie and I love that, so thank you so much. I know you're taking time out of the middle of your week, too, to come and see us, too. So one last thing, I'm going to do one last plug. That's my website. Follow me on Twitter. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of shit on there and a lot of stuff on Twitter. Like I said, I'm Twitch streaming twice a week now with live coding. So if you just follow me on Twitter, I post whenever I do live coding on there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter. That's kind of my primary home right now. And LinkedIn too. Yeah, feel free to add me.
Yep.
Let's chat.
And then lastly, too, there's a link to, if anyone's interested in working for Best Buy, that's the website, bestbuy-jobs. I will say currently there's not many openings, but if you look again in a couple weeks, that's when like Q1 starts. I'm guessing a lot of jobs are going to start hiring like crazy Q1. That's when most companies get funding for the year. So I'm guessing you're going to see a lot of jobs start popping up here. Yeah.
So would it be better to get the resume in now or wait till right before so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle?
I would apply now. If something's up, that means we can go for it. So if you see something, go for it.
But if so I can't just send my resume in to Best Buy and say, hey, I'm interested in a job in as a junior. You
can now. If you want to send to me, we can sit with it. I won't be able to do much with it. And I'm pretty busy, so I forget about stuff. Yeah. So you might want to remind me in a couple weeks if you don't see anything, or if I don't see anything right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. That's a link to Ludo. Yeah. Another thing too, I'm recording this. I'm gonna be posting this on my Twitter later today. So follow me there if you want to get that. And I'll also be posting the slides on Twitter too, so you can have access to all this too. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'll just be hanging out here. If anyone wants to like chat about stuff, come on up.